We are here a little late today,
Smidge late.
but we are here. Welcome to part 4 of 5 of this Managing Triggers series. Today, we're going to talk about how you and your partner can work together as a team when triggers show up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if this is your first time watching, connecting with us, welcome.
Mm-hmm.
We've been having some really, powerful conversations over the last few weeks about how to better navigate those moments when you're finding yourself getting triggered in your relationships. So, as a quick recap, week 1, we spent some time talking about what not to do in response to the negative, angry, scared, defeated thoughts and feelings that show up when you're triggered.
Mm-hmm.
In week 2, we shared about the 3 more loving options that you can choose, that you can do in these moments where you find yourself triggered. Last week was part 3, where we dove into why the triggers are happening and shared a powerful tool that you can use to decrease the intensity and the frequency really of the triggers that you're experiencing. So if you missed any of those, just drop a heart emoji. You can choose the color heart in the comments so we can see your name pop up when we go back through this, and we'll make sure that we get you linked to the recordings from the prior weeks.
So today, as I mentioned, we want to talk about how you and your partner can come together as a team when triggers show up.
Part 4.
And this is so important because what usually happens when we get triggered in our relationships is that we experience our partner as our opponent, right? They're the threat, they're the problem, the thing we need to defend and protect ourselves against. Certainly not our teammate, right? But when you can learn how to make the shift from opponent to teammate, you change the whole game in your relationship, right? Now, instead of triggers tearing the two of you apart, they have an opportunity to bring you two together. Now, your partner being triggered isn't such a threatening or scary or disrupting thing because you know how to get through it faster and together. Like either of you being triggered doesn't create so much distress in your relationship or between the two of you. So let's talk about how to do this. The first thing that needs to happen in order to become a team around triggers is to recognize that you are a team, right? Like you are a team. And I know this, it seems really obvious to just say, you are a team, but no, really, you have to remember that when everything in your body and nervous system is saying, no, they're not my team, they're
That's
my
the enemy.
right? And this experience of them being the enemy, right? Being your opponent, being the threat. It happens because we often experience our partner as having caused the trigger, right? You did this thing, it triggered me, you caused this, therefore you are at fault, you are the problem, you are the enemy.
Yeah, cause and effect logic.
And logically, that would make sense, right? But it's actually not true. And this is a really important paradigm shift that I want y'all to get. So if you're listening, lean in or get out your pen and paper so you can write this down. Your partner does not cause your triggers, right? Write it down. My partner does not cause my triggering. We get triggered because of our own stuff, right? Your partner is just the thing that happened.
Right.
They're just the world outside you, the sensory input that your mind and brain and body are picking up on.
Yeah.
But because of your history, your wiring, your beliefs, your stories, your traumas, whatever it is, right? Other shit that's happened in your relationship, because of stuff that you remember and associate with whatever it is that your partner just did, your nervous system is responding to what they just did as a threat. Does that make sense? it's like it's kind of a wild shift, and a lot of people have some resistance to like, no, they do trigger me. They do, that is their fault. It's like,
Yeah,
well,
it's a common discourse. You know,
and
have to look at it that way.
and it makes sense why we do,
Mhm.
right? Like, but I would like, it's important here to muddy the water some, and really, I want to really challenge you to think about, like, if your internal world were different,
Yeah.
would it still trigger you the same way? Would it trigger you at all? Probably not, right? So, so that's a really important shift. And when you recognize that shift and can own that it's
Mhm.
like it's your stuff
Getting activated.
that's getting activated in response to your partner,
Mhm.
it's easier to not see them as the enemy,
Mhm.
but instead to recognize, like, oh, they did a thing that like my nervous system didn't like, or that I didn't like, and I'm reacting to it, but they're not like a bad guy
Mhm.
because of it, right? Um, what else do we want? I feel like I just lost my train of thought. So the what's really helpful here also to like recognize is that in knowing that it's not our partner who causes us to be triggered,
Mhm.
we're also like acknowledging that it's not our partner's responsibility to make sure that we're never triggered.
Yeah, they're walking on eggshells.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that's what walking on eggshells is, right? Like I got to make sure that I don't do anything that triggers or upsets my partners. I don't feel like I can make a mistake or upset them or say things in the wrong way, or like, and they're going to get upset. Like it is not safety in our relationships,
Mhm.
right? Nobody likes feeling like they have to be on high alert of upsetting their partner.
Mhm.
And if you're in a position where it's like, you expect your partner to not do anything that triggers you, right? That's not fair. Like you're then making them responsible for
How you feel.
your
Just
own stuff,
totally not, yeah.
not their responsibility.
Also not possible. Like they can't control
Right.
how you feel.
Right. And it's, yeah, and
Or
it
do a lot to
sets
influence.
everybody up for success, right? Because like we can't not ever trigger our partner. We don't
Yep.
know where all of those triggers are, and do our best. Even if we know what the triggers are, like we
Mhm.
might still set them off sometimes. It's
Mhm.
just part of being in a relationship, my loves. So like, as we're like talking about the accountability of this, it shifts your partner out of this role of like being the bad guy, being the cause,
And the solution.
and being the solution, right? Because if they didn't cause it, and it's not their responsibility to prevent it, then when it happens, hopefully we're also connecting the dot to like, it's not their responsibility to fix it,
Mhm.
right? To make you feel better, to bring you back down from being triggered. Likewise, like you, dear friend, are not responsible for making sure that your partner's never triggered, or
Mhm.
fixing your partner when they are triggered,
Mhm.
right? Like let's separate this out. We need to be responsible for ourselves. Our relationships are a lot harder because we can't, like as Cal said, we can't like control our partner.
No.
We can't actually.
We can barely control ourselves.
Right.
We
Like,
definitely can't control another person. Not well.
and so when we're trying to make sure that like when we're trying to take responsibility for how another person feels or reacts, it often doesn't work, and both
Mhm.
people feel really bad.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a really important paradigm shift. If you're going to be like, coming together as a team means first and foremost recognizing, again, like I started, that you are a team.
Mhm.
That it is not your partner's fault if you get triggered, even if they like activated the trigger by something that they did or said or didn't do, right? It's not their job to make sure that you never get triggered, and it's not their job to fix it when you are.
Mhm.
But here's the other side of the coin. It is still a loving thing to help you when you get triggered, to
Mhm.
try not to trigger you,
Mhm.
right? And that's the other piece, like the other side of coming together as a team, recognizing it's not my responsibility to fix them or to prevent it, but the loving thing for me to do if my partner's triggered is to support them.
Mhm.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that? About that side of the coin while I take a sip of
About
water?
the side of the coin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like the 90-10 rule side of the coin.
Sure. I mean, like talking about your partner being not your part. The loving thing to do is to support your partner when they're triggered. That's
Yeah.
that's the
Well, I
other
mean,
side
I
of the
don't
coin.
know if that there's much more to say to that because it is. I mean, it is a loving thing to help and not just like be like, oh, that's just your problem. Go deal with it.
Mhm.
I think that being able to manage your own responses also
To your
because like
partner
I
being
think
triggered.
yeah to your partner being triggered
Mhm.
because I think it can be a slippery slope. Your partner's
Right.
activation can activate your activation. Now you're both triggering the
Totally.
heck out of each other. So yeah, being in control of what you can control, which is yourself and your reaction and
Mhm.
managing that.
Mhm.
But yeah, part of that is the 90-10 rule,
Yeah.
right? And recognizing that the if you're witnessing your partner, for instance, being triggered,
Mhm.
it's 90% about their stuff
Right.
and 10% about like what you did or
What actually
how you
happened.
or what happened, the
Mhm.
contribution.
Mhm.
Similarly, if you're finding yourself the one triggered, it's 90% happening within you.
90% of it is like
The reaction
all
to the
this.
10%.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. So in all of that, right? Like carrying that perspective of like recognizing it's more about the internal world, you actually have a little bit more choice
Mhm.
around like what do you do with that?
Yeah, how do you respond?
Yeah.
Knowing that, like, it's not your fault, you don't have to take it personally, you're not responsible for it,
Mhm.
but you can choose
The
to,
loving
like,
thing.
to show up with love.
Mhm. Yeah.
And
So what does love that? What does that look like?
yeah, great question.
How do you
What does that look
how
like?
how a little segue. Like how do you choose love when
When your partner's
when your
triggered.
partner's triggered and might be triggering the heck out of you?
Mhm.
Well, if you're within your, window and ability,
With window of tolerance, like you're not flooded and totally triggered yourself,
yeah,
for those who aren't familiar with that term.
yeah, the steps would be listening,
Mhm.
but listening to understand, right?
Mhm.
Not listening with the hopes of getting some kind of agreement or
Mhm. Or
some
change.
ulterior motive.
Mhm.
Validation, which
Mhm.
is a thing I had to learn how to practice,
Mhm.
which is essentially like expressing understanding
Mhm.
or like validating that their experience seems like a, uh, it,
That it makes
it makes
sense.
sense that they would feel that way
Mhm.
had you connected the dots the same way. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, of course, it makes
Mhm.
sense. Attending to the emotion that's happening, like
Mhm.
soothing, helping to like provide care and concern
Mhm.
for the fact that like your partner's having an experience that doesn't feel
Mhm.
good.
Mhm.
Um,
Attuning.
attuning.
Mhm. Yeah.
How do you explain that?
Attuning is like emotional resonance. It's like tuning into their energy channel, right? Like a radio picks up vibrational signals of sound.
Yeah,
You're like tuning your emotional energy to like resonate with theirs. So it's um it- similar to like empathy and compassion, but
mhm,
it's expressed um like resonance and understanding on an emotional level,
mhm,
right? Where you're really paying attention to them and creating space and like safety for them to be in their experience,
mhm. But not necessarily meeting them in the experience. And
right?
I
Like
feel
not
like
having it yourself.
yeah, so
Mhm.
when we're talking about like matching energy, it's not quite or like tuning in. It's like not taking it on,
As your
but
own. Mhm.
but being able to like yeah, translate or understand it,
Mhm.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're choosing love, when your partner is activated, when you're trying to be a team, it looks like, holding space for them, letting them talk, letting them vent.
Mhm.
And sometimes it looks like giving space to them, letting
Mhm.
them walk away, letting them like
Vent.
have have their own time to be upset and not
Mhm,
have to like fix it or solve it right in that moment.
mhm,
Right. So there's a lot of things that we can do that love can look like
mhm,
and that teamwork can look like when it comes to being triggered. Generally though, like like just to kind of consolidate and come back to what we were saying, the foundation of coming together of the team, what we're really talking about is this mindset shift, right? It's like having this new level of awareness, these new decisions about how you're going to show up. You're deciding it's not your partner's fault, or you're deciding it's not my fault that they're triggered.
There's no one that needs to be at fault.
Right. That it's okay that it's happening, that your partner is not the enemy, even if you might feel that way in the moment. Like that's a duality to hold, right? But we can have both and in our mind, that some part of us feels like they're absolutely the enemy and I don't like them right now. While another part of you is like, and I also know that they're not actually the enemy.
I just have a really angry part.
I just have a really angry part right now. You can see kind of the ways that we're bringing together some of the things we've talked about in these other managing triggers videos, right? You're remembering that you're not like responsible for them, but you are responsible for managing what's happening in your own nervous system and how you're reacting to their reactions, and that you can help them. You can help them feel better by giving love in response to their being triggered. I think it would be really helpful to like come together as a couple and talk about what it can look like for the two of you to be a team when someone gets triggered, right? What do you want to acknowledge about this? What helps each of you? What would help you when you're triggered? How can you help me when I'm feeling triggered? What feels good? Because it's probably going to be different things.
Yeah, the two of us, it couldn't be more different.
Right, when we're triggered.
She's the one who needs to talk about it, and just like, as long as I just get a chance to vent it and hear myself saying it, it just changes. And for me, I don't need to bring more energy to it. I need to like
take space, walk away. Which can be hard for me to allow.
Change the channel.
Like I recognize that's how I can support him.
And how we're different.
Yes. So create a plan, right? Like what do you want to do together? This is part of being a team. Like plan ahead before you're in the moment where someone's triggered around what you want to do when that happens, because inevitably it's going to happen. So I want to share a story about just yesterday, actually, that I think pulls together this idea of becoming a team, and also some of the other things we've been talking about. So yesterday I had a really off day. I don't know what the heck was wrong with me, but it was a very primal day and I was not happy. I was angry and I had some shit activated, my friends. Oh my gosh.
Yup.
And I wanted to be mad at Cal. I was mad at Cal, but my parts were mad at Cal. But I recognize that, like, even though I feel like it's all his fault and I want him to fix it, that's not true. And because I knew that and I recognized that, I was able to name that. So one of those options that we gave you in number 2 of the series, right? Like I chose to like speak for my parts or share about my parts. And I asked him, right? I let him know what I needed. Like I need to, like, it would help me, as he said, to just like be able to give voice to what I'm feeling. And I named also that I'm afraid to do that because I didn't want to like do damage. And I know the things that I'm feeling aren't very nice or very true. He was willing to hold that space, although it was very hard for him to hear some of the shit that came out of my mouth. And like, I was like, the part of me is protesting this, and a part of me thinks this, and a part of me has this story, and a part of me like just wishes this, and I maybe let loose a little bit too much. I'll admit I wasn't as good as I wanted to be in this process. But Cal did a really beautiful job of holding space for it and recognizing this isn't actually about him, even though I'm like, my stories toward him in that moment were like, and you and you and you. He was able to maintain that, like, no, this is about Jenny and what's going on with her. And he did a really great job of managing his nervous system and owning that he had a part that, like, I've got some parts that are activated right now, but I'm managing them. And by the end of like my discharge, I was able to move from like anger to like tears, where I was in this like part that was like, I just feel lonely and scared and it's so hard. And he was able to comfort me in that. And then I crashed in bed and curled up in a ball. And, because we have bad days and it's okay. It doesn't mean that our relationship is bad to have bad days. And but it was really lovely because once I got that out, that like it like cleared the fog for me, and very quickly I was like, none of that shit is true. Like, I am in a weird headspace. Like, what is wrong with me? I don't know what's wrong with me. And then, very quickly, within, I don't know, an hour or so, I was like, can you come snuggle with me in bed? And we were able to repair, and I was able to like share, like, I feel really bad for the things that I was thinking and said out loud, and acknowledge like I didn't mean it, and hold space for his parts, and we were able to come back into connection so fast.
Mm-hmm.
And so, having a really extraordinary relationship, again, isn't about being perfect. We're going to get triggered. It happens.
Yeah, you're going to have days that it's just like harder to shake some of the just negative vibes or feelings or stories.
Right. But when you can like understand that you're a team and learn, like, improve your skills at managing these triggers, you can get through those days and those moments so much more powerfully. I can't even imagine what would have happened if I had just reacted to Cal from how I was feeling.
Yeah.
The damage that would have been done.
Yeah.
If I just unloaded everything as if that were true, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or if
I reacted to you,
right,
and what you were sharing.
Yeah, and being pissed at me and defensive for what I was saying, because it really wasn't like true, and and probably
not true.
He would have yelled and gotten upset and then withdrawn from me, which would have felt like abandonment to me, because really I needed support. Like, I needed his love in that moment, and would have created this huge injury in our relationship that in the beginning probably would have kept us disconnected for days.
Hours to days.
Right? Like, it would have been so painful and hurtful for both of us if we didn't have the skills and the awareness that we do now.
Yeah.
But yet, like, that, what I just described, what like happened before, that is what we know so often happens in relationships when partners aren't good at managing their triggers yet. And fortunately, we have become very good at helping other couples learn how to do this better.
Yeah. So if you're one of the many couples, potentially, likely, who struggle with these really painful and disconnecting experiences whenever something's getting activated between one or both of you, usually we chalk it up to like, oh, communication, but really it's your triggers and nervous systems.
Yeah, there's a lot more than communication, right?
Yeah, so many people think it's communication. That's the issue. It's not the issue. Anyway, I digress.
That's another tangent we could go down.
Sorry. But like, we want to really, if you're experiencing these kinds of like patterns that are feeling really impactful, like, we want to encourage you to apply to work with us, because what we do is really helpful.
Yeah.
So we have a few spots open right now in our high touch Back from the Brink intensive. And so this is for people who are feeling really stuck and struggling in their relationship. They're on the brink, considering divorce or separation or breaking up, but don't prefer that as an option. Like, that what if we could wave the magic wand and make this relationship better, that would be your choice all day.
Yeah.
And maybe you've tried other solutions to improve your relationship and none of that's working. This is intense.
Yeah.
It's 90 days, high touch intensive program, which means the two of us are working really closely with the two of you, both individually and together, helping us as a team, helping y'all become a team.
And I'll add here too, if you haven't been working on your relationship, if you haven't tried other things yet, this program's probably not for you. Because we work like with couples who know that they need something that's really going to work, right? Like, and that are willing to invest the time, energy, and money in a solution that is actually going to work for you. And maybe you're the kind of person who's like, I just want that solution. great. I
Yeah,
wish more
maybe you
people
already know
were.
that like therapy sucks. Do you remember like where I was?
Therapy doesn't suck.
Okay, yeah,
It's just
sorry, it
not.
doesn't. Couples therapy is not very effective to moving people out of the pain and suffering that they're experiencing in their relationship.
Yeah, for
Sorry.
a lot of couples.
Yes. The modality is just flawed for couples. For individuals, I think it's great.
So like our point, right, is that, you know, be like, we want to work with you when you're really ready,
Yep.
like really ready to do the work.
Yeah.
Which
You
is
have
why
to
we've
be.
created an intensive with this, because we want to support you in shifting these patterns and improving your relationship
Mhm.
like quickly, and build momentum so that you can really learn and transform who you are,
Mhm.
in addition to how your relationship operates, so that you can like have the happiness and the love and the ease that you really want.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a healing journey.
Yeah.
It's not for the faint of heart.
Mm-mm.
So you have to be committed, and not just to your relationship, but certainly that's very important.
Mhm.
But that you're committed and serious about making it work. And so usually that's people who've been together around the 5-year mark. So
At least.
yeah,
Mhm.
at least, but
Mhm.
sometimes, well, yeah, self-select. You know when you're in it.
Yeah.
But like part of the other commitment aspect of this is that in working with us, you're committing to doing some work. So roughly committing 2.5 hours minimally a week towards centering the program, towards centering your relationship, and
Mhm.
work on yourself.
Mhm. Absolutely.
So it's significant commitment.
It's also really important that you be someone who is willing to be courageous,
Mhm.
because as Cal mentioned, this isn't work for the faint of heart. Like
Yeah.
transformation and growth are hard and scary
It doesn't
sometimes.
happen really from chilling.
Not always comfortable.
Yeah.
And so it means bringing the courage. So know that that's a part of this. And if that's you, then we want you here,
Mhm.
because it can be so much better than it's been.
Yeah, we'd love to help you.
The investment is $5,888 for the 90-day intensive.
As a
Just,
couple.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's not per person. That's as a couple. Send us a DM with "I'm ready," and we'll send you the form to apply.
Mhm.
And hopefully we can get started in transforming your relationship right away.
Yeah, because you want it fixed yesterday.
I know.
We're talking 90 days.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in and taking this time to learn about your relationship and improve how you're managing triggers. Stay tuned next week, Friday at 2:30 for the final part of our Managing Triggers series.
Yeah, cool. See you then.